Alright, welcome to the Dissectify podcast, hosted by somebody who has no idea what they're doing, but is 100% obsessed with nature and getting people to appreciate what's already around them. I'm going to be going for like 20 minutes, at least that's the goal, and telling you why you should be listening to me instead of all the other podcasters. Listen to them, but also, listen to me too if you're interested. If not, then, that's fine. What are my credentials? You know how most people are, they like animals and dinosaurs and bugs and whatever else when they're kids, right? I never moved on from that. In fact, it probably got worse as I've aged, never moved on, and some of the recent events kind of spurned me on. I was like, more people need to appreciate this shit. It's good for you, Society's going to make you angry, it's going to make you anxious, and if you get out in nature, you're just going to feel better. You're going to see all the pretty things that you don't know the names of, and just feel more relaxed. I'm saying, if you know the names, and you know what's going on, and you know how they interact, then it's going to be even more interesting on top of relaxing. I've tried to do a lot of traveling. One of the main hobbies is iNaturalist. It's a great app. You guys should check it out. Take a picture of something. It'll give you a good idea of what it might be. I've taken that app and I've decided to make it my whole personality, basically. I've taken that to Costa Rica, my one and only time I've been out of the country so far. Found a mountain lion there, found poison dart frogs and sloths and monkeys and tapirs and bugs that want to hurt you, and I've gone all over the U.S., gone to Arizona all by my lonesome, interrupted a mountain lion's meal, and walked very briskly in the other direction. Important in my expert knowledge, which I'm not an expert, but big cats like to chase things. So don't turn around and run. That's a good way to get attacked. They're not monsters, but they're hungry and you walked into the kitchen, or at least I did that night. So I guess pro tip, if you're in Arizona looking for wildlife, I was looking for rattlesnakes, and you're thinking like, should I take the paved path or the dirt path? If you're alone, take the paved path. Maybe the dirt path, there's more wildlife, but I didn't count on it being able to eat me. Sidetracked. Credentials. Dissectify is a project, a company now, where I'm trying to promote, bring connections together. It's kind of wild to me that a lot of the nature experts, or at least the people who really dive into this stuff, they divide themselves up. You'll have the person who's looked into dragonflies for the last 20 years of their life. You'll have the birder who hates snakes, loves nature, knows all the birds, releasing owls, and, they're in it. And it's not wrong. It's not wrong to have people who are so into their niche. But I'd found myself being the person who wanted to see it all. And, I think the only thing that really kind of bothers me is the parasites and the centipedes. Not a fan. But they are evolutionary marvels, in themselves. But, not a fan. I find myself being the generalist who wants to see and appreciate it all. And then there's the people who use these apps and who are only interested in one thing. And if that's you, that's not wrong, but I would really love to get people like cross-talking. Get the dragonfly guy talking to the butterfly person. Get the bird person talking to the plant person. Bug person talking to the plant person. Plant person talking to the mushroom person. Yeah. I don't know. Anyways, the recent events that kind of have pushed me forward on trying to get this whole thing rolling was, the whole climate change thing. Somebody, I forget, it's one of the big organizations. I'll have to look it up. I should have been prepared, but I'm not. Maybe I'll look it up on my phone in the meantime. But one of the big organizations had released a report saying that we've crossed one of the climate tipping points, meaning, things have changed or warmed enough that we've reached the first tipping point, and this one was that it's getting too warm for coral reefs. So, that's meaning that, like, corals all over the planet are going to start to struggle to, like, survive, which means all the things that they're, supporting or sheltering, like fish and eels and whatever else uses them, is now going to be struggling to find habitat. So this is what I mean when I think the whole project, the whole idea of Dissectify was to get people, like, aware, right? If you're outside and you're looking for these things and you can start to understand how these things connect and how these things are important, right? Like, the bird person may not give a shit about plants, but, come to find out, like, the bird needs the plants because the insects need the plants, and the birds eat the insects, and the birds use the plants for building nests and for habitat, and it's one thing, it's not bad. In fact, I would argue it's good if somebody goes out and says, I appreciate seeing birds, they know all their birds, they know the calls, they know, where they migrate, etc. That's great, that's awesome. But if you're not supporting the plants, then you're not supporting the birds. You're not supporting the bugs. Everything is connected, and I think if people got outside and started to learn what's around them, they would understand that there's a lot of problems, there's a lot of beauty, and if people know what's going on, they'll want to protect it. And this whole tipping point thing sort of like, this has all been in the works for a long time for me, but it pushed me forward to be like, okay, I'm not sure. I feel like I have something to say on these topics. It feels like, I'm just me. I don't know who would even want to listen. But, first tipping point, corals are now going to be struggling going forward. Actually, it had been some YouTuber that I'd watched. Again, I should have been more prepared. I think it was Simon Clark's video, who does really great, like, climate content. But, I don't know. I'm just still I used to read these things called zoo books, which is basically like magazines for kids, rather, that was basically all just like animals. I remember seeing, it stuck with me, being a young kid in some dry ass place in Washington, reading my zoo book and it was explaining how the great white shark has a corkscrew intestine, right? So it accomplishes the same goal as our intestines, where, ours is basically just like a big long strand, or like a long tube, large and small intestine. But sharks sort of achieve the same thing by having, increasing the surface area by just having like a single cylinder, but it's a corkscrew internally. So that there's, I hope this is all true. At least this is what I remember. Again, I should have fact-checked this. Maybe that'll be the system. I'll just kind of talk, and then the next episode, or at least episode number 2, I'll go back and fact-check all the shit that I talked about. But I know the report was real. I know that much. The shark intestine thing, I'm like, 90% sure. I would never intentionally lead you guys astray, especially not on something as important as shark intestines. But yeah, anyways, I still feel like the Zoo Books, kid, right? I now have adult problems and a little bit more adult money, so I could keep buying Zoo Books if I wanted to, but we've moved on. I've now moved on to throwing myself in the path of animals who, may or may not want me there. Important, right? If you're going out to look for these things, you should probably give them space. They're scared of you. Maybe you should be scared of them occasionally. But it's given me a whole lot of really cool opportunities. I'm still trying to grow and trying to do some other stuff, like I want to be able to scuba dive. I think that'd be cool. We're working on it. But so far, I've done a lot of traveling for finding wildflower species. Seen a lot of cool things. Rattlesnakes in Oregon was pretty cool. There's some pretty cool flowers next to Death Valley. If you guys ever want to check it out, I think it's their bloom is pretty much March, so really early spring. There's enough water that goes through the really dry areas in the east side of the Sierras and Death Valley and Nevada and stuff like that. You get really good blooms. Yeah. So I don't know. I still feel like the Zoo Books kid. I'm just trying to tell people, hey, there's some cool stuff going on near you, wherever you are. Although I think it can be pretty tough if you live in downtown Manhattan, or at the center of 5 different cornfields in Ohio, Oklahoma, something like that. But even then, right, there's going to be stuff that you may not notice. You just got to look closer. There's going to be birds. There's going to be insects. There's going to be stuff that you just take for granted. That's there. It's surviving, Yeah. I think humans, I don't know, complicated relationship with humans, we can be really cool, but sometimes we can be super shitty. But main point being that we, like it or not, humans have a lot of sway, a lot of pull, a lot of power over the environment. We use a lot of that power to, grow our own food and build infrastructure for houses and entertainment and hospitals and all the stuff that we need or want. And that's not wrong, but I think we can use some of that power to do things better. And I think the first step in my mind is getting people to notice the natural world, and not just in ways that, they don't like. Oh, I don't like how this tree drops fruit on my yard or drops leaves on my yard. I don't like that there's a spider in the corner. I don't like, blah, blah, blah. I think there's a lot of ways in which we've, just for our silly choices, like wanting only the biggest, prettiest flowers in our yard and wanting only grass, right? We're using a very narrow set of living things to like push out everything else. So, we're pushing out the native plants and the bugs, which means we're pushing out the birds and the mammals and the reptiles and the amphibians even, that depend on these things, right? We're like monocropping everything. So yeah, I don't know, there's room for improvement is what I'm trying to say. So it's tough. I want people to appreciate nature, but I also don't want people to be like poaching wild plants or collecting, basically like destroying a species in the name of appreciation. That's also not what I want. So it's kind of tough, right? Like, I think if you were to go out and you find a snake or a lizard or whatever, and you, like, hold the lizard, right? It's not gonna... That alone isn't a big deal. But if, like, there were, 400,000 people who wanted to go out and find the one single lizard species, that could cause a problem, right? That lizard species is probably going to go extinct or something. At least if everybody decides to, do something small or, that might harm the habitat. So there is a balance to be struck here, but I think we are far enough in one direction that I think there is something to be gained by trying to get people to talk to each other and to, like, appreciate what the biodiversity we have around us. Because so far, it's a lot of lawns, it's a lot of cattle, it's a lot of corn, it's a lot of crops, and a lot of people saying that, like, something is either oh so pretty or just a problem, right? So I'm trying to figure out how to get people to appreciate the thing, appreciate the biodiversity, but then also to try to, like, smooth over some of these interactions. Like, I think if you could prevent a lot of the nastier interactions, right? I understand if somebody, like, found a venomous snake where it wasn't supposed to be, or if it's in your home, like, yeah, that's scary, 100%. I mean, if happened to me, I think I'd be kind of stoked, depending on where it was, right? If it was, like, it's like in my bed or something, yeah, it's not a problem. But, I don't know. I mean, I have a snake hook, so I bet you do too. You could just escort him outside, no big deal. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of beauty out there, and I think we're fucking things up pretty bad. And this is my approach. I'm trying to get you guys to be, like, learning and stoked, right? You have a smartphone, you can download iNaturalist, download eBird, start taking pictures, and it'll help you identify. And then when you're, wanting to flex to your buddies, you can be like, yeah, I know that call. That's a mourning dove, or that's a raven, right? You hear the barking noises? Yeah, that's a raven. That's one of the smartest birds in the world. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just gonna be talking and seeing if anything comes of it. In the future, I'll probably have some more structure than this, but maybe not, because I'm coming up on my 20-minute mark, and I feel like I've gotten some good points across. I'm obsessed with nature. I think you should be too. Maybe not to the same degree, maybe more. But I recommend iNaturalist, I recommend eBird, and I hope that, there's some sort of interest. I'll be putting a little bit more effort in, but this is episode 1, and I think that's about it. I'll think of a fancy sign-off later. Bye.